morning. I will now call the May 12th, 2021 meeting of the Curriculum Instruction Committee to order. Dr. Cuppett, I understand we have several public comment.
Yes, ma'am. We have two today. And so the first one is from Sajuta. That's all that's listed. Hi there. We are experiencing days which are hard to describe, and we are facing natural calamity here and there in the entire world. I think it is a good idea to prepare the next generation for unknown disasters so that they can handle them effectively and efficiently. It would be a great idea to include disaster management in the high school level. The second item for public comment is from Susan McNichol. It says, my name is Susan McNichol. I live in Frederick County and have been actively involved in Frederick County's Adopt a Road program. I began picking up litter in my community, Wellington Trace, about 3 years ago, and then adopted all of the streets in the community. I began doing litter pickup because I saw a need for it, and so I have committed myself to cleaning up the streets of Wellington Trace. I also do New Design and Ballinger Creek when I can. The Adopt a Road program only requires individuals or groups to do a cleanup 4 times per year, which I'm sure helps, but I came to the conclusion that 4 times a year is not nearly enough, so I do litter pickup each week. The reason I'm writing today is to ask if Frederick County Public Schools has any curriculum or programs in the school concerning the environment and littering. I genuinely feel that teaching people to care more about the harm litter can do to our lakes, rivers, and oceans begins at a young age. I was wondering, with the exception of parents who care about the environment, how do young people learn to care about the caretaking of their community, ultimately the environment? So again, I'm writing to ask if Frederick County Public Schools have programs or instruction in order to plant a seed in young minds about not littering, and if not, why not develop a program? Classroom instruction and active participation, ? Thank you for your time with this matter. And I'd be happy to reach out to that parent specifically about how we do that. I can get with our specialists. I'm sure we cover environmental stewardship in a number of our courses starting in the earliest grades. So I'll be happy to follow up with that parent.
Thank you. You're reading my mind. And having just picked up trash on my own property, we have some road frontage that's far from the house. 3 trash bags full, and now I'm seeing a McDonald's bag down there. So I am not happy with litterers right now, and I'm, yes, all in for that. Anyway,
and,
not school.
Excuse me, Michelle, and I just wanted to mention there was a story in the newspaper over the weekend about elementary school students at Wolfsville releasing trout into one of the local streams up there. So if we could also point to that media release as well.
Very good.
I don't know if it's a media release or a news story. So
right. Oakdale Elementary has also done trout release in other schools. So good stuff. Lots of times goes on. Thank you. Are there any other board member comments at this? I'm sorry, I skipped the minutes. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, they will stand as written. Any board member comments at this time? All right, we will get right into the math updates. Thank you. Take it away, Dr. Cuppett.
Yeah, so good morning. While I'm starting to share my screen, I just want to remind especially our newest board members here that these updates come in as part of our regular updating process. So you'll see these cycle through the curriculum instruction schedule, year after year. What we try to do is we try to place them on the calendar so that they're in a timely kind of timely manner so that you guys can be aware of certain things that are coming. If somebody can confirm that we see the presentation, I would appreciate it. I can't see you. So
yes, we can see it.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to turn this over. I want to introduce Debbie Meyer. She's our curriculum specialist for elementary mathematics, and Stacy Sisler, who's our curriculum specialist for secondary mathematics. So Debbie, turn it over to you.
Thank you so very much. As Kevin said, I am Debbie Myers. This is my 37th year within FCPS. I've held lots of different roles, been very blessed to work with incredible people. Prior to this position, I served as an elementary principal for 29 years. It's hard to believe, time flies. Anyway, it's with great joy that Stacy and I come to you to share our body of work. And before we begin, we are feeling very compelled today to begin with a focus on gratitude for your work, as well as the work of members of the Board of Ed. And we also recognize our teachers, our support staff, our principals, our county administrators, our leaders within central office, as well as our curriculum content specialists. So on behalf of both Stacy and I, we don our caps to the incredible work that you have been doing, taking on under such incredible constraints. So with that said, Kevin, if you could, there we go. Our work in elementary math changed a bit last spring as a result of being within this constraint of the pandemic. Our work continues each and every day. And so the first piece you see on that slide is a bit of a description of our beginning work. Over the course of the last year, we created kindergarten through grade 5 district courses for each quarter. Those district courses contain the items you see there to support teachers both in their virtual teaching, in their in-classroom teaching, and in their concurrent. So a wide variety of resources exist for our teachers. The second piece you see there is all about our virtual learning resource tab. So we house all of our teacher resources within our Curriculum Now site, Elementary Math Curriculum Now site. And those resources are both student-facing and teacher-facing, because we use that site as an opportunity to grow teachers and teach them all about the art of teaching mathematics. Inside of that virtual learning resource tab, we built professional learning resources, recommendations, learning trajectories, reporting guides, and lots of other things for teachers to use. Our last three items, or my last three items on that slide, really speak to how it is we continue to establish two-way communication with our teachers. So we have built Schoology, grade level Schoology groups for each grade, and I'm very proud to say that I think about 92% of our teachers sit inside of those groups. That group is a way for us to notify, a way for them to notify us. It's a way to share our celebrations with them. For example, our team just shared a Happy Teachers Appreciation Week last week, and that went out to every single teacher. Because of the beauty of that group, we can get to people quickly. In addition, that Schoology group has allowed teachers to provide feedback about our resources, which has allowed us to tweak them and make them even better. Because you know what, we're not perfect, and sometimes there is a misspelled word, and I will tell you, as soon as it hits the teacher desk, they find it, they report it to us, we fix it, and push another one back out. We also work to share with our math specialists a weekly bulletin, a newsletter that not only goes to our math specialists, but to Dr. Cuppett and Dr. Seaton as well. It contains a variety of items. It may give them updates. It may give them information about current topics, current happenings, and we always try to put in a brain power segment. We use that word to build efficacy inside of our curriculum. And additionally, we're in our office every day. We start somewhere around 8 o'clock and go until about 4:30 every day. So you just pop in and we're there.
Can I interrupt just real quick, Debbie, too? I did want to point out, and Debbie may not be the person to share this, it's just not her style, but in that newsletter and in the work that she does, especially with our math specialists, Debbie and Jenny and their team are very in tune with the affective part of teaching, the importance of, recognizing teachers when they've contributed to the overall math mission. She's quick to put in, kind of funny cartoons and little things, which is one of the reasons I open it up for one, because there's some great stuff in there. But I did want to recognize her for being attentive to teachers, not as just implementers of curriculum, but as an important part of our FCPS organization. And she does that in all the work that they do.
Thank you, Kevin. It's hard to take a building administrator out of a person, right? When I was working inside the building, we had a very simple mission statement, and lots of people know about it. It was all about building brains, building hearts, and building bodies. Our kids knew it, our teachers knew it, and all of that still lies deeply within who I am as an educator. So thank you, Kevin. So Kevin, if you could go on to slide 4. Okay, there you go. This is what we busy ourselves with every single day. And I'm telling you, while people ask about how our days are going, they are busy, they can be stressful, but honest to Pete, our team loves our work. And I know Stacy's team loves her work. They love their work. We love what we do for teachers. So with that said, the very first thing you see there is Elevate Academy. We are currently completing 160 lesson templates for students in rising kindergarten to 6th grade. And on those summer school templates, we focus on a set of very tight priority standards. The priority standards have been identified for each week. We have a scripted learning target and success criteria, and then we have resources linked inside of those templates. Such as student lessons, model charts, problem-solving prompts. So that's where we're at with that. The second piece that has been near and dear to us in the last couple of weeks is our focus on what it is we're going to present for the 21-22 school year in terms of resources. So first things first, we identified priority standards. And that document was just completed. It's hot off the press. Using the Achieve the Core Coherence Map and NCTM documents, and all we know as experts in our field, we have crafted at each grade level priority standards and additional and supporting standards. Standards have been reduced within K-5 by an average of 32%, okay? In addition, for example, in the grade 3 curriculum, while we present 24 standards, 24 standards as priority prior to this year, next year we will heartily focus on 16 of those standards, which is a reduction of about 33%. Now that's not to say that the other standards aren't optional out there for teachers and students to get into, but we really do want children focusing on those priority standards. Along with that is our focus on accelerating learning for next year. Whether you look at the Fordham report in the acceleration imperative, NCTM documentation, which is the National Council of Teacher of Mathematics, or Dr. Steiner's work at Hopkins, we must work within a frame of acceleration. If we want to prove equity to all students, we absolutely must work at providing just-in-time support that really set kids up, set our modest learners up for the oncoming on-grade level content. The best thing we can do in mathematics is to provide all students on grade level access, period. That is our whole framework for how it is we're going to take on managing that loss that has occurred. And not necessarily loss, we didn't lose anything, we just didn't get everything, right? Remediation, on the other hand, sometimes is perceived by students as the kids in the low class. It's also, it actually sometimes diminishes an ability for a student to be involved in on-grade curriculum. In addition, remediation takes on this idea that I have to master all of these things in second and third grade that I didn't necessarily get before I get into fourth grade curriculum. No, that's not how we need to approach learning for next year, essentially any year. We have summer curriculum writing workshops coming up. Thank you, thank you. We are going to be working on 3 documents. Formative assessment is excruciatingly important. For every week at every grade level, we will have a set of what are called Are You Ready tickets. At the end of the week, we are providing every single grade a weekly formative ticket. So teachers are going to know what kids are doing coming in and what they've done going out after a week. That's the really large focus. We need 1 per grade level for every week of the school year. So additionally, we're looking at iReady as our new digital tool. We're very, very excited. Thank you for your support of that purchase. We have purchased the diagnostic with a pre, a mid-year, and a post-assessment, and we will work with Jen Bigman's office to figure out how we will take that on, in addition to the personalized instruction component. Professional learning plan, while we will focus on iReady.
Hey, Debbie.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I just hop in real quick on iReady?
Sure.
For our board members here, iReady is a very similar type of platform to what we have with Lexia. And we had just done a presentation for the board, the C&I committee, about the characteristics of Lexia. And those are very much present in iReady. So I wanted to make sure you saw that that's kind of the math equivalent tool that we have.
Thank you, Kevin. So yes, we are very excited about iReady. Our professional learning plan will include all teachers having opportunities to learn and grow in that iReady platform. And while that is extremely important, what is most important is that we continue with our accelerated learning, professional learning, which you hear called ALP. I am an ALP guru. Did ALP in my buildings before ALP was ALP, and just totally believe it is the most important vehicle for developing professional learning to all of our teachers, because it is job embedded. It focuses on standards, on pedagogies, on instructional design, on developing evidence of learning that matches the standard. And then it naturally flows into our grading piece, our standards-based grading. So we're very excited about getting back in the ALP saddle. Jenny and our team does move into schools to support that, to model that process. So we're very excited to be back in a regular school year where that PL is going to be happening. Our team, Jenny, Layla, and I, are working towards an elementary prototype for standards-based learning and grading. Everybody has been so collaborative and so supportive of our work. It is a work in progress right now, but we are very glad to be those stepping out front with that. And lastly, our textbook contract is in place through 2022-23, and we will be looking at a new primary text for elementary math at that point, after that point. So,
yeah. So I'll add to that. For those of you, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, who were not back here, Mr. J, you might have even recalled some of this. Many years ago, we had a math program that was called Investigations, and the board voted to end the use of that tool. that we had, I think it was maybe 2 years old, I think, when we had purchased it. And so we turned around and purchased a new one. And we did that for an interim contract of about 2 years. And then when I came on board, Dr. Seaton and I worked with the company and we negotiated a 6-year contract with 5 years of payments. Now that program was called Go Math, and it is actually coming end of life. HMH will not continue that program, and they'll be adding a new one. And so when we go through that process, that'll go through the normal textbook approval process, and we'll just keep you guys updated on to where we are with that. All right, and that's gonna be a bigger ticket item, because if you think about it, that's a significant 20,000 kids at elementary, all middle school students, and then we'll also be looking at algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2 as well. All right, thank you, Debbie. Are you good?
Yes, I am good. If there are any questions, I'd be certainly will entertain those. So
yeah. So do we have any questions about elementary math? And I think we should do those, Karen, before we move to secondary.
Yeah, that certainly makes a lot of sense. I just wanted to point out to Mr. J and Sue that as board members with an FCPS logon, you can get into, and Mr. J probably knows this from working in the system, you can get into curriculum now. And so if you want more information on that, either I can help you, or I'm sure anybody that you contact can help you, just so you can see for yourself the resources. And so, the Dr. Steiner, was he the one that was formerly on the Maryland State Board of Ed?
Yes, he was.
Okay, thank you. That's from Johns Hopkins. That's what I thought. I was just checking him out because I know he's no longer there. And I'll just finish up with iReady, and that I was hearing that a lot when there was talk about not doing standardized testing and what were various systems doing. It seemed like a lot of counties in Maryland are already using iReady. I believe Frederick Classical Charter might be using iReady. So that seems like it's got a good track record and very good on that. Any questions, Mr. J or Sue?
I'll go. Not so much questions, but I do remember Frederick Classical Charter School talking about iReady as well. I have to say, my son is in elementary school, and I don't see him. So he's not using iReady. So as far as I can tell, either he is or it's embedded into something else that's got a different name. So that's coming.
It's for next year. Currently, okay. Waverly Elementary used it this year. And Debbie Myers is meeting with the school administration, Dr. Watkins and Ms. Ivins, to talk about their implementation and how that went. But this will be a district-wide license for next school year, Ms. Johnson.
Okay.
Mr. J, no questions at this time?
No.
Okay. And I just want to point out to my fellow board members how the board handled investigations math program was a classic case of how not for the board to handle things, because I was in the school at the time and the shock waves that went through were not fun. And then the board came back and said, oh no, we meant at the end of the year, not in December. So it's a good case study to look at how not for a board to do something the right way. I've kept it in my mind, certainly. Mr. J?
I'm just having issues with my computer. I might have to log out and log back in. I'm getting some freezing issues. So I did have questions, but I can't entertain them because I can't control my technology at the moment. So I have to log out and log back in. I apologize.
Okay, we'll look for you. I know there are times where it's like, is it me or is it everybody else? And when it's everybody else, it's obviously me. But I think Debbie Myers might have frozen, but we could hear you just fine because other people were still moving. So we'll look for Mr. J to come back in, and we will let secondary math go ahead.
All right, Stacy Sisler, you're up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacy Sisler, and I'm the secondary math curriculum specialist here in Frederick County. This is my first year in this role, but math has been something that's been near and dear to my heart for all of my career. I'm a middle school math educator and have also taught high school math courses. So I love being in this position, and it feeds my bucket every single day. You're going to notice that there are some themes with what I have to share with you that are very similar to the themes that Debbie Meyer shared with you. And along with the theme of gratitude, not only am I so thankful for the support that we receive from the board and from our directors, from our building level administrators and central office administrators, and all of the people that we mentioned earlier, as well as our teachers. I'm thankful for our secondary math team. We are a small but mighty team, and Wendy Seifert and Layla Watkins come beside me every day in the work that we do. So I'm thankful for them as well. I want to start by sharing with you some of the ways that we've supported our teachers as we've moved into this school year in the middle of a pandemic. And one of the biggest ways that we've provided support for our teachers in our classrooms is through the Schoology blueprint courses that were created over last summer. And those blueprint courses include resources that are both student-facing and teacher-facing, so that teachers have resources ready at the helm that are high-quality, well-vetted resources that align with our standards, align with our text right now, and provide students exactly what they need to know with priority standards. We also provide support to our teachers we created collaborative Schoology groups where teachers can interact not only within their building, but with other teachers who teach that content across our county. And that's proven to be a place where they can share ideas, ask questions, and have an informal collaborative planning process. We also provide daily office hours for our teachers where they can come in and ask us questions, where they can come get information, where they can come and vent and problem solve if they need to. And we also provide that opportunity for our math leaders, our middle school math specialists, and our high school math specialists and department chairs. There's also a lot of communication that goes out through email, just because we know time is so valuable for our teachers and for our school-based math leaders. So we do make an effort to share as much as we can succinctly in email. One of the things that we did miss a little bit this year was the professional learning that we started, but recognizing that that needed to pause so that teachers could really focus their efforts as they moved from a virtual to a hybrid model of instruction. We felt like there were ways that we can work around those big chunks of professional learning. And so we've created what I call 5-minute musings about math that are just bite-sized pieces of professional learning that we share on a bi-weekly basis in Schoology and on Twitter, so that we're keeping some ideas that we want to focus on with our teachers in terms of their professional learning and how they're building their mathematics classrooms without overwhelming them with huge sessions of professional learning at one time. And then finally, they know that there are multiple places where they can get the resources that they need. Not only are our resources in our Schoology blueprint courses, but they're also available on Curriculum Now on our virtual learning resource tab. And teachers have expressed that they like having that information in multiple places, because some of them are more comfortable with one platform as opposed to another. And they've been able to pull out exactly what they need from those places. In terms of where we're moving, Dr. Cuppet, if you want to move to the next slide. As Debbie shared with you, a lot of our work this spring has focused on preparing for the Elevate Academy and preparing opportunities for our students in grades 6 through 8, as well as credit recovery opportunities for students who were enrolled in Algebra 1 and Geometry courses this year. And we've taken our priority standards, and we've also thought about effective, equitable teaching practices and growth and strengths-based mindset. And we've combined those things in the curriculum that we've created for our Elevate Academy. And students are going to engage in mathematics in collaborative ways. They're going to explore mathematics visually, and they're going to have some different experiences that are going to hopefully excite them about mathematics and excite them about learning in preparation for moving into next school year. We've mentioned several times priority standards, and we in Secondary World have also worked based on the recommendations from MSDE and the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics and some other national organizations to identify priority standards, not only for this school year that we're finishing, but we're going to continue with those priority standards moving forward for next year. And prioritizing those standards really helps us to focus, and it also helps us to redistribute our time so that teachers can also focus on the whole child and building our students as mathematics learners again, and attending to both their academic and their social and their emotional needs. As we think about accelerating learning, some of the work that's going to happen in our summer writing workshops, summer curriculum writing workshops, is going to be to take those priority standards and align to them key prerequisite standards as well that students may need to do some work with as they come into next school year. And by identifying those prerequisites and also the instructional tools for those prerequisites, that helps teachers to be able to do just in time knowledge building kind of instruction and provide opportunities for students to be able to get support that connects to their future grade level work immediately. And so we're not living in the past, we're helping to move students forward in that plan. Also, in summer curriculum writing workshops, we're going to work on refining all of those student-facing and teacher-facing resources based on the feedback that our teachers have given us, not only throughout the school year, but especially this spring. We've reached out to find out what they need, what worked, what didn't work, and how we can make that resource better for them so that they don't have to spend time making those improvements and mining for those resources and things like that. Similar to elementary, we are introducing a new digital tool. It's called Alex. The thing that we appreciate about Alex is not only is it standards-based and does it provide a personalized learning opportunity for every student, but it has strong rigor that addresses needs in all of our secondary mathematics classes from 6th grade clear through calculus. And so we're going to introduce that tool during our summer academy and with teachers who are teaching in summer academy. And then we're going to bring all our teachers on board in the fall and introduce them to the power of that tool, the diagnostics that it provides, and the personalization that it provides for mathematics learning for students. We also are working on a professional learning plan, and our focus for that plan has not changed. We began work this year with our middle schools and high schools, thinking about equitable teaching practices. We've done work with productive struggle and what that looks like in a mathematics classroom and how you support students through productive struggle. And we've also talked about building fluency with conceptual understanding, even in middle school and high school. That work doesn't stop in elementary school. All of that is grounded in a strengths-based mathematics teaching and learning mindset. We're encouraging our teachers, and it will always be our message that as our students come to our classroom, we have to honor them for who they are and what strengths they bring as opposed to what they're lacking. And so our work with that professional learning will continue through next year. And then, as Debbie and Dr. Cuppet mentioned, our contract with Go Math is going to come to an end. So we're going to be working through a textbook review process in order to bring on a new resources for grades 6 through 8 math and Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And Secondary World has already done a virtual textbook review process this year for our math elective courses that are above Algebra 2. And so we're looking forward to taking that on again and excited to find resources that are going to align, really K through 12 for mathematics. I'll take any questions that you have at this point.
Glad you made it back, Mr. J. Hope your tech problems are solved now. And I know you missed a lot of the secondary presentation, so feel free to ask questions, the things you might have missed, or Ms. Johnson, if either one of you have questions.
Thank you. All's well now.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I know when we got an intervention update, they talked about using more visual means with algebra. And now I've lost you. There you are. Sorry. And I heard you say, visualization and things, and that clicked. I'm like, oh, I've heard that before, which I think is really great, because I know algebra is a whole different step up in mental sort of development. And for myself personally, I remember the dark hole at the end of the tunnel. It was just dark. And then eventually it opened up, and the light shone through, and I started to understand. And so I think that visualization, I like, to hear how are we addressing different needs and trying to bridge that gap for students. So very good. And if you want to talk about that, that would be great.
I can talk about that for just a minute. We know the work that we're doing with our secondary math teachers, when I mentioned building fluency through conceptual understanding, visualizing mathematics is really part of that conceptual understanding piece. And sometimes in the secondary world, we get so caught up in we want them to know their facts. We want them to know the steps for the procedure. We want them, to be able to work through a process and kind of check the list as they go. And while sometimes that works for some students, we know a lot of times students are left with, well, why am I doing this the way that I'm doing it to begin with? And so those visual pieces and those connections that we can make helps ground the procedures that they're doing, and helps makes the procedures make sense, which is really what we need them to do. We don't need them to follow steps blindly. We need them to be critical thinkers and to understand the connections between what they've seen and what they've learned and why this process works.
So important, because of course I'm old enough that when we learned math, it was just the steps. Didn't matter if it made sense. It wasn't until I was teaching elementary math that I understood why square numbers are called square numbers. It's like,
exactly.
Oh,
Yes.
square. How about that? Starts to make sense. So wonderful. I think that's all. I just had more general things. I think I just wanted to say that I did notice that first slide, and I thought, how kind of you, Debbie Myers, to appreciate us and everybody else. And we appreciate you. It has truly been, the word is so overused and often misused, but uncharted territory, not uncharted people, uncharted territory. And, I keep saying we're learning so much. For the next pandemic, we'll know so much more. And I hope I'm kidding, but I think hopefully we can take the things we have learned, and sounds like put them to good use. So that is all wonderful. And I was going to ask Dr. Cuppett, how are we doing getting teachers to do summer school?
Well, I'll defer to Ms. Bingman. She is the spearheading all of our, kind of coordinating all of our programs and doing an excellent job. So she just actually shared this information with us this week, I think it was.
Yeah, so we are about 70% of the way there, like overall. There are a couple programs that have a little bit lower, specifically our Rising Kindergarten program, because it was written into the grant that anyone who is teaching that Rising Kindergarten program have to have the early childhood certification. So the grant requirements make it a little bit more difficult to hire more folks, but we still have more to do. We're getting ready to post to any teacher who's retired and they're interested in coming back to teach. That email should be going out to, over the last 5 years, any teacher who retired, to see if they want to. We're going to be sending emails to all of our current interns that are in our schools, as well as our newly hired teachers. So we anticipate being able to fill more positions and to have a higher number. But so far, we've made some great progress, and we're able to really serve a lot of our students. And I believe I'm on the docket for a presentation to the full board on May 26th. So you'll hear a full update at that time with where we are then.
Very good. It's making the news, and it's a topic of conversation and during MABE meetings, but Fairfax County, I think, was making the news recently with, I think they're only at about 30 or 40% that they're being able to cover. So maybe 2,000 out of 7,000 kids, something like that, quite a low number. So that was discouraging, but thank you. That's encouraging. I'm glad to think we're thinking out of the box. Very, very well done. So I think that's all the notes I wrote for myself. But I do have to something I want to say before we go on to Ms. Richmond. So I'll let you wrap up with the math people if anybody else has another question.
Yeah, Mr. J looks like he has his hand up.
Thank you. So I can go back over into Board Docs to get the full lowdown. But I did some questions in general about secondary math. I wanted, so we have we've kind of come back, and we're now offering more rigorous opportunities for our students in middle school coming into high school. But I know that with the state requirements now, you can no longer just take math and take your math requirement. You take math every year in high school. And so once students can come into high school actually having finished their high school graduation requirement for math. And so I wanted to know, in terms of what we're doing for them going forward, are we offering like a dual enrollment piece there where they can start taking college courses, or just going to be higher level in school, high school math? And if so, is it going to be asynchronous, or is it going to be where they have a teacher? Like, what are the options for students that are going to do more than just like more math, like where they can start earning college credit?
Actually, you've mentioned a lot of options that are all available to our students as they move from middle school to high school. And we do have a group of students that move with either algebra credit already obtained in middle school or algebra and geometry credit obtained in middle school. And so a lot of times students will follow a traditional kind of calculus-based path where they will do algebra 2 and pre-calculus, and then AP Calculus, AB, and BC. We do sometimes have students who choose a less STEM-based path and calculus-based path and go more towards a statistics path. And so they'll do some of that algebra 2 and pre-calculus, but then they'll look at our statistics and probability and AP statistics course. We have students, though, that also access dual enrollment courses, and we have dual enrollment courses that include, they can do pre-calculus dual enrollment if they would like. They can do college algebra as a dual enrollment course. We have Calculus 1, 2, and 3 as dual enrollment options as well. And we most recently are working on a proposal for a virtual dual enrollment Calculus 3 option, because we know that some schools aren't able to offer Calculus 3 because of just the small number of students who are interested in that option. And so we're trying to work for a way to make that accessible to our students who really want those rigorous opportunities.
Thank you.
And Mr. J, we have next month for curriculum is an update on the virtual school.
Yeah, I have questions about that. Well, you'll hear my questions about that later on tonight at the meeting.
Okay. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, I just on the Alex program, I see that it's an umbrella package, and it's a McGraw-Hill company. Is that okay? So are we like looking at purchasing individual courses from within that?
So Stacy, do you want to address how Alex is set up? And one of the reasons, Ms. Johnson, that we actually had looked obviously at a number of products at that level. I think one of the things that really sold us on Alex was just the span of mathematics that it covers all the way up through the higher coursework. But I think Stacy can kind of give you a rundown on how Alex is set up.
So Alex is really a supplement to many of the McGraw-Hill programs of study. And while it's a supplement that's well aligned to all of the McGraw-Hill programs of study, it's also a standards-based aligned program. So it's a supplement that aligns with other resources outside of McGraw-Hill as well. So we've purchased Alex as that supplemental piece to the instruction that's going to happen in the classroom. And the power is going to come in the personalization that supplement provides for students. When students take their first, they call it a knowledge check, it's a diagnostic assessment, then it will provide for students a personalized path that helps them build the skills that they need to continue with their mathematics learning and will move them forward at a pace that's appropriate for them. Teachers will also have the power not only to have students work through that personalized path, but they'll be able to utilize Alex to provide assignments real time for students aligned to the standards that they're instructing in class in that moment. So it's a supplemental tool that's going to work alongside the curricular resources that we have available now and that we'll be examining for when our Go Math contract ends.
Okay. And then I guess from my perspective of college and career readiness, trying to ensure that students moving on to the next level don't need to have to do in developmental math when they pursue their higher education. Are we looking at using any tools like this to help keep students on grade level math? I guess
that is certainly one of the primary
a big
goals.
Picture for this to like, what are we using to help make sure we're floating all the boats, as it were?
Besides this as a tool that can personalize for students, and again, it's aligned to all of our standards in all of our courses. It's actually a 3 through post-secondary tool. We're using it for 6 through 12. So all of our teachers in all of our courses from 6th grade through high school, including all of our higher level courses, are going to be able to use this tool to help personalize for students. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is the work that we've done with our priority standards and identifying those priorities that are going to help students be successful in the grade that they're currently in. But those priority standards have also been aligned along a progression that will prepare students to move to their next course of study in mathematics, including when they move from high school into that post-secondary role. We also have partnered with the math department at FCC, and they've provided for us some really a student resource for students to use to gauge their readiness for taking those post-secondary math courses at FCC. And so they've provided us packets that we've shared with all of our high schools that students in pre-calculus as a senior, if you are looking to take Calculus 1 at FCC, here are the prerequisites that you might need. And it gives them sample questions to look through, answers and explanations to go along with those sample questions, and then resources. Here's how you can get ready if you don't feel like you're ready. You can use, open ed resources that are on the internet. You can reach out to your high school teacher. Once you're enrolled in FCC, you can reach out to the STEM Tutoring Center at FCC. And so we're working to try to help students see where they're going to need to work to be ready for those post-secondary courses. I mentioned also when I was addressing Mr. J's question about a traditional calculus path versus some other pathways that are going to help prepare students for work post-secondary. And the state of Maryland is actually working on a statistics framework that provides a secondary pathway to provide students for post-secondary work that's not necessarily calculus focused, but is focused on skills that will help them to be 21st century citizens, data literate citizens, able to infer and analyze and think about all of the information that's coming at them. So there's a lot of work that's being done in a lot of different ways to help prepare our students to move from high school to whatever their post-secondary experience is going to be.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. We ready to move to media, Karen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm glad to hear that because, I have members of my own family who are excellent at math and who are not, and my children. And so to have those different paths, I think is a really good idea. So thank you so much for that. And great question. Yes, ready to move on. And what I wanted to say is just to the other board members, Mary Jo Richmond and I have known each other like 35 years. Clint turned 40 yesterday. We've known each other since preschool Greenworld. And that ties in Kristen Canning, because I was walking down Market Street a couple of weeks ago after the Teacher of the Year ceremony at West Frederick, and I see Miss Libby, who had Libby Stauffer, and next to her, Lynn Harris, and then Mary Jones, Kristen's mother, and they were preschool, kindergarten at Green Valley, first grade at Kemptown. And people said if you had those three teachers, your child could quit school because they would just know everything. Unfortunately, you'd have to move to change from Green Valley to Kemptown. but it made my day. And, so I know Kristen comes from a great teaching stock there, but Mary Jo knows all those people as well. So now I will let Mary Jo or Kevin take it away.
Sure. And at this point, I just wanted to thank Stacy and Debbie and for their presentation and let them know they are free to roam the planet now that your presentation is done.
It was my pleasure being here. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So if somebody can confirm verbally that the presentation is showing now for media services.
It's showing.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to introduce, I know that Mary Jo got a little bit of an introduction from Karen. I appreciate that. But Mary Jo Richmond is the supervisor of our media services. So that's certainly all of our library media programming. But she's also been very instrumental over the last, at least the 7 years that I've been in the department, assisting us with really identifying and streamlining our digital tools and even eliminating some that were outdated or not being used. And so I wanted to thank her for that work. And I will turn it over to her for her presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Cuppet, and thanks Karen Yoho for that. That was really awesome. We had some great times back in the day in the Monrovia area with some great educators, and it was my experience at Green Valley as a parent that made me make the decision to go back to school to get into education. I always wanted to be an educator, but my high school guidance counselor convinced me that I would never get a job. And when I realized back then there was a glut of teachers when I graduated from college, and he just didn't think that I would get hired because there were too many teachers. So I went into another field. And then when I started volunteering at Green Valley, Jerry Strum, those of you who knew Jerry Strum, convinced me I should probably go back to school. And I have no regrets. I've had a great career here in Frederick. This is my 25th year and my 12th year here in central office. And I don't regret a single day. It's been, I just have a smile on my face every day working. So it's been awesome. I thank Debbie for her gratitude slide. It made me feel very small when I saw theirs that I hadn't put something in similarly. But this has been quite a year, and there's so many people who we've worked harder than we've ever worked before, but there's so many positives that have come out of it. While I don't have any certified people in my team in central office, the people I supervise are support personnel. They have just made this year so productive for me. But I also want to say that while I don't I feel like I work with every certified person on this floor because of the nature of the work that I do, and that Kevin just talked about that, the digital tools. I just really have to work with everybody because I touch the digital tools in our school system with every department, and even the other departments in our school system. I have to work with SASE, I have to work with special education, and it's a privilege to do that because I really get to know, just like when I was a school librarian, I get to know people everywhere, and that's just who I am. I just like to know other people, and it just taps into my strengths. So getting into my slide presentation, I want to talk about some of our primary initiatives. This year, I asked all of our school librarians to do a collection development plan and to analyze their collections. As a school system, we've never done this before in the same year. I was able to review everyone's analysis and reports. I asked the media specialists to meet with one of their building administrators before sharing their report with me. They were asked to pick priority areas of their collections as areas to spend the majority of their funds on this fiscal year. A major part of this analysis was also intended to look at how strong their collection was in regards to a diverse collection. I want to point out that that's hard to do because the publishing industry has not quite caught up with where we need to have diverse print books. The publishing industry is working hard to get more diverse books in, but we've cautioned our media specialists that they need to find quality literature, not just any literature that represents diverse people. We intend to continue to ask our media specialists to work on their collection plans for the next several years as a group, so that it can be embedded in the work that they do. Next slide, please. The next thing that we've done is something that we're calling future plans. So basically, it's an evaluation plan for the Media Center. This is part of the evaluation process that principals do every year, or when the evaluation time is up for the media specialists in the building. And the media specialist has to prove somehow to the principal that they've done an evaluation of their media center. And there's no consistent way that the media specialist does that. They typically just tell their principal, yeah, I've done that. So we had a group of media specialists last summer work on something that is the same for every school. And it's just done on a Google Sheet. It sounds simple, but it really wasn't that simple for them to prepare. But it is simple for the media specialists to fill out. The brilliant thing about this is it's exactly the same. And while we have media specialists that might stay in their same building for 20 or 30 years, the building administrators change relatively frequently compared to the media specialists. And now, when a principal changes or an assistant principal changes and they want to see the evaluation plan for the media center, it's the same. And the administrators are going to say, well, can I see your evaluation plan? And they'll be used to what this plan looks like. And it's a Google document, and we can just add a sheet every year that the media specialist updates the plan, and we can see it grow over time. And if a media specialist does change, we've got the plan for the school. I've got the master documents, and we can just see it evolve over time. So we'll have a historical record of it, and it's all going to reside in the shared drive for media specialists. So it's been whichever media specialist said we need to do this, I give them a lot of credit for taking the initiative to say we need to do this for everybody. So maybe only 15 of them did it this past year because it wasn't required this past year, but it's going to be required starting next year. Okay, want to talk about blueprints next. We did a lot of elementary lessons in Schoology, and this work is continuing as we move forward. We created a lot of lessons for Black African American History Month, and we're going to continue that work this summer with Women's and Hispanic Heritage during summer curriculum writing. Okay. SORA is a huge, huge initiative this year. It's our new ebook platform, and I want to point out that this platform is available to you also, and you can get to it from any Media Center website. If you do go onto Sora, and I want to tell you that there are a lot of adult ebooks on there because we buy adult ebooks we just buy adult books in the high school because our high school students are adult readers, and we can buy, according to our policies and our guidelines, we can buy adult books for high school students. Obviously, we buy appropriate adult books for high school students. You might be freaked out when you see the books in there because you're going to think, oh my gosh, this is what elementary students see. You can change your filters so that you only see juvenile books, and that would be what elementary students see. So I just want you to caution you for that. And that's what our elementary teachers do when they're showing this platform to elementary students. As of this morning, we had 83,500 books checked out for the school year. And you can see that when I wrote this slide, we had 74,000 books checked out. So in a month's time, we had almost 10,000 more books checked out. We've partnered with English so that we could buy what we call a class set of books. So if The Giver, we just use that book as an example. If students in one whole class wanted to read the book The Giver, we would purchase a class set, and you could assign that book to students in a class, and it would just be delivered to them in their account, and they would be able to read it on any device that they want, whether it would be their Chromebook, their Kindle, or an iPad, or their phone, and they would have that book available for them, and then they would be able to read it from whichever device they wanted to. And this was imperative to have this platform, given that we weren't distributing print books until we were really back in school. So this was a lifesaver for our English department. We also used this for textbook approval this year. And this became really good for us because we weren't able to get books into the public library to use for textbook approval. And upon analysis, this is really a nice way for textbook approval because anybody can look at the textbook on the ebook platform rather than having to go into the public library to actually see the book themselves. All right. Last year, when I came before you for this meeting, we had talked about a research class that was approved, but we didn't write the curriculum last summer because of COVID and the other work that was put in place for the teachers that were going to be writing that. So we're going to be doing that this summer instead. And also this summer, we're going to be updating the elementary pacing guide or the curriculum map because of all the lessons that we wrote this past school year to help with virtual teaching. And then this is a nationwide situation that occurred. When schools closed across our nation for approximately 2 weeks, a lot of schools just said to kids, check out books, you're going to be home for 2 weeks, schools are going to be closed. And in many situations, kids were taking 5 to 10 to 15 books home to read for 2 weeks. And then no one came back for a long time. And by the time we brought books back or brought families back, we lost a lot of books. In one of our schools, I think they checked out 4,500 books in that one day, that Friday, and they brought back all the books except for maybe 400. So they recovered a lot, but they still had a lot of loss. So we just found out a couple weeks ago that we're getting grant money to help replace these books. So the schools are very excited that the books that they lost will be covered and we'll get the books back. All right. And then lastly, we have some silver linings. We've learned to work really well in virtual meetings. We've learned to work really well with instructional technology. One of the great programs we got at the high school is a platform called Swank. They jokingly call it in the high school Netflix for video streaming. It's got some full-featured videos in there, and the high schools love it because it's just really created a nice platform for them to show the right kind of videos for our high school. It maps nicely with what we need to be showing in courses like film studies and psychology and all those courses that the right movies are not available in YouTube, and kids can access it from home and teachers can assign things. It's just been working out nicely. The other thing that was really great is that we were able to implement curbside pickup to put reading materials into the hands of students. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Ms. Johnson, Mr. J, any questions?
Yeah, if I can, it's not so much a question, it's just trying to get my head around where we're going. And I do thank you for the presentation, first of all. And I found it very interesting. I think we probably have a couple of books from last spring somewhere in the house that my son checked out the very last day that I need to see if I can dig up now that you mentioned that. Where are we tying together media services and instructional technology and how we're moving forward so that we're ready to be responsive to whatever may happen in the future? So what I'm leaning at is what are we doing to make sure that we're working together so that we have enough of our content stored digitally so that, say, a class can't meet for 2 weeks, because of quarantining, that class can still effectively function. And so it's not necessarily just a media studies or media specialty question, but it's like, how are we integrating this all so that we have a robust platform that'll withstand whatever the future is going to hold?
That's a great question, Ms. Johnson. So that's when you heard Debbie and Stacy Sisler talking about our blueprints. It's in our Schoology platform where a lot of these digital items can be delivered. And what's great is the work that we've done, we actually started developing blueprints, I think about 3 years ago, because we really saw that the Schoology platform needed these student-facing resources that teachers could easily get to their students. Not only, it prepared us to some extent to the pandemic, but it was really about modernizing the instruction that occurs in the classroom. So if I can push things easily to students, I can now meet with small groups more easily, that I can differentiate instruction when I'm in my face-to-face with kids. That parlayed well into the situation we had when we had the school closure. And so our team has been just building out those Schoology blueprints, improving them, taking things out that teachers said, well, this wasn't the best resource, putting those in. But also you heard about the underlying benefits of having our flagship digital tools like Lexia, iReady, and Alex. We have those. We have some others that are very content specific. For instance, in CTE, there are some clear platforms that promote learning like AutoCAD. A lot of those things we had virtualized during the pandemic so that students would be able to access them through Chromebooks, because prior to that, they needed to be in a lab with a certain high-powered type of computer. And so our the director of technology infrastructure and his team worked with CTE to virtualize all of those programs. We've added them in visual performing arts. And so this, you hear me repeatedly refer to as the digital ecosystem, these interconnected tools, some of which connect directly to our student information system, creates an environment where teachers can leverage their high quality work and at the same time leverage some digital things. So, I was thinking, Ms. Johnson, when you were, I just read an article about what they had learned after Hurricane Katrina and the displacement of students and the disruption of school. We've now learned lessons as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And my expectation would be, let's say there's a scenario where an elementary school loses power for an entire week for some reason. I think we have so much in place right now that we would be able to move pretty rapidly over to a remote learning situation for that 1 week while that extensive repair was made. And we would have the tools for teachers to not make it so much of a burden, or they wouldn't feel in any way that they're starting from square one. Our media specialists play a big role in that because they do serve as kind of mentors for other teachers and coaches around the use of those digital tools. And when Ms. Richmond mentioned that everybody got into digital tools, even those teachers that were resistant to use any kind of technology, obviously we're forced to do that. So I think we're in a good position. This idea of this well-constructed digital ecosystem continues to evolve. And in the last 3 years, we've really moved more towards the vision of what we had starting 7 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. J?
Yes, thank you. So I want to thank you for the presentation. Actually, I could feel your knowledge base and enthusiasm for the content, and it was actually very comforting to hear that. We have a great staff at FCPS, so I want to thank you for the work. I just have questions in terms of, I know Dr. Cupper mentioned this earlier on in the year, that we're seeing a impasse with the pricing because of the technology. But do we see ourselves in the future being able to get some of our, you mentioned we lost the book that we lost and that kind of thing. Going forward, do you see us purchasing less books and more purchasing digital licenses for books and kind of like having that a cost savings there? Or is it still the case where if I bought this book, physically versus buying a license for it, electronically, I'm paying the same amount of money here, where I can't maybe improving, having our own digital library where we kind of like, have some cost savings because we're doing books online versus having them all in the library and making it a little more fluid for kids to get a hold of books. I just want to see if any of that dynamic is changing at all.
First of all, I can't imagine making that change in the elementary school because I can't imagine asking our kids to become fluent readers in a digital, with digital books, because I think it's really important for our youngest readers to become fluent readers with print books. I'm a huge digital reader, huge, as is my husband. And I think it's, I don't know. But I think this year we saw a big shift in our secondary spending towards more digital books. But a lot of digital books are temporary because of the licensing from the publishers. They might only be good for 2 years or 26 checkouts or something. So, and as far as, a print book might last us for 10 or 15 years or 20 years. So it's and I'm going to rely on our media specialists to make that decision on what's the best use of money. Sometimes it's going to be, they have to make that decision. Sometimes they're going to buy that digital book because they know that student who wants it in a digital copy. And sometimes the digital copy might only cost $7 and we can get it instantly. We'll get it 2 hours after we buy it. Whereas if you buy it, to get it processed with a barcode might take you 4 weeks. So it just depends on how they're ordering it and who wants it and that kind of stuff. So,
Mr. J, I would add too that just like a lot of the things that we do in public education, it's really going to come down to a balance. Our media specialists are good at balancing their internal budgets and what is cost effective and what's not. And there are still a significant number of students who really enjoy having the book in their hand. I'm a pretty tech savvy person, but when it comes to reading books, I want a paper copy. I've not moved to digital. I think it's probably because I'm on screen time so much anyway. But I do think that the digital space will allow us to be, I think, maybe a little more nimble with our choices. So for instance, if we see some trending popularity in certain titles and text and there's short supply in print, that getting them in digital version will get them into kids' hands faster. So that's a possibility as well.
We have one of sorry.
I as well. I'm a very big fan of tactile reading. However, as you mentioned before, I would trade that in if it meant that we were able to cover more ground. If so that's why, as far as personal purposes, I think we should have I love the library. It's a safe place for me. Always has been. But I also think about being able to spread out the wealth, and so you mentioned that word being nimble. That's what I was kind of leaning towards, being nimble. So thank you.
We have a curriculum specialist who's about to do a book study through this ebook platform with a book called Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. And it's kind of exciting because we're going to assign it, like I've talked about English teachers were assigning books. So she's got 25 teachers that are going to be doing this book study, and we're going to push this book out to her 25 teachers. So it's going to be interesting to see how the teachers respond. And it's the first time we're doing a professional development book on this platform. So I can't wait to see how it goes.
Yeah. And also, Major, I want to thank you for your comment of leaving that choice at the school level. I think that was an excellent thing to say, because it's true. Each school has a different feel and what the kids that building need. So I think having a specialist in that building with that call is really good.
One of the things that this ebook company does, first of all, they give us books, and we've never done business with a ebook company that gives us books. Like they gave us 38 books for summer reading. Now I would question some of the books. They would be books I would never buy, but they're meant for summer reading. So they're total pleasure reading.
Mm-hmm.
But they also put books on sale. And there was a book by a man named Peter Reynolds. He's just a true artist. It's a picture book. They were on sale for 99 cents. And I talked to our elementary VPA supervisor, how many copies would she want? And we settled on 2 classroom sets. So we bought 50 books at 99 cents each.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful picture book, and there's a professional actress reading the book aloud. So it would be so easy to just assign that book to students when you've got a substitute teacher. It's a piece of cake. So for $50, quite less than that because it was 99 cents, we were able to buy 2 classroom sets of this book. So this company is just, when you talk about educational partners, that's what this company is. They're an educational partner.
Wonderful.
So it's been wonderful to deal with them. And we've had this company for less than a year, and we're just coming into our own and learning how to work with them. So, and this is a book we'll own forever. It doesn't expire. So, and it's a timeless book because it's about art. So.
And that's what I'm hoping to hear. What's what I'm hearing back is because during this time, what we can't miss in this, some lessons you get painfully, and this was a painful lesson, but we've kind of, I heard it mentioned before today, where teachers who were reluctant to technology kind of were thrust into it, and we just can't lose that. And so being nimble and finding opportunities, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Right.
And I just wanted to add about the digital readers. I am I'll take a book in whatever form it comes. I'm in a book group. And so if that's digitally, which is great because then I don't have to find more space in my house, or however it comes. But I had a grant, my second to last year teaching, 2016-17, I had a grant. I purchased 5 Kindles, had a group of 6 students who were, a little bit of struggling readers. So I had these Kindles for them. And I thought, this is great because they don't know a word. They can look it up right there. Just some supports and all for them. And, at the end of the grant, you have to tell how successful you were. So I gave them a little pre-survey and a post. They were not overly enamored, and kids were not scrambling to pick up the Kindles. And one of their reasons was, I like to see how much progress I've made, so the visual of I'm this far. I thought it would motivate them if they didn't have to see a thick book, you know. So anyway, it was very interesting. Some of the other things you said, like, well, I look at screens all the time. I don't want to do that when I'm reading a book. And it may have been just that it was new. I donated them to the library since the grant was for that school. And I'm sure there are students who prefer or enjoy a digital book and things. So it is each to his own. And I can assure you, Mr. J and Ms. Johnson, that Ms. Richmond is always looking to be innovative and do what she can to make things the best for our students. So anything else then?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Thank you very much.
So probably future topics, is that right?
I think that's what's on the agenda.
Yes, future topics are Frederick County Virtual School, and the District Committee on Assessments will provide an update in June.
All right. And just to let the board members here know, we are drafting out the tentative schedule for the next school year. So we have multiple departments to look at that. So you'll be able to see that at the next meeting. And of course, that's not truly a public agenda that, you know, is like a board docs type agenda. It just generally gives the committee a sense of what's coming. And we always appreciate the flexibility of being able to juggle those around. Sometimes we bring them forward sooner because it's more timely for you all to hear it. And then sometimes you all have topics that, you know, we eventually put presentations together for. So again, it's a tentative agenda, but our ACTS division, which is the instructional side of the house, will be looking at that this coming Friday. And so at the next meeting, we'll have that available for you.
And Dr. Cuppett, my understanding is summer curriculum workshops are all going to be virtual. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So thank you, Karen, for bringing that up. Last year, I believe we gave you a series of links that you could drop into these virtual. So basically the format for Mr. J and Ms. Johnson is that there are even though we're virtual in our curriculum workshops, there are periodic meetings and check-ins that our specialists do to guide the work. And then a lot of times what will happen is then the folks on that team will either go out into their own Google Meet to work on things, or they'll work independently and check back. And the virtual has been great for us because there are many teachers who maybe could not come to the face-to-face workshop from 8 to 12 in the morning because of childcare related things, but they can attend one meeting virtually and work on their areas of responsibility and check back in through that virtual. So it's actually helped us a great deal. So I think last time we prepared a series of links that span the week and in multiple content areas. And we can do that again for you so that you can hop in and out. And we just alert our specialists and our teachers working that they may see some board members dropping in. If you'd like to do that for the July meeting, that would be great. We can set it up just like last year. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, personally, as long as that's okay with my two colleagues there, I think that's great. And it is interesting just to pop in. You know, the schedule didn't always work, but I tried to pop into at least a few meetings to hear the discussion, and it's very interesting. So, and having done curriculum writing for about 10 years myself, of course, it was a very different format, but it's an enjoyable process. It's frustrating, and you know, because you start out thinking you're going to be somewhere, and then it's like that doesn't work, and then I also found you get away from the kids, and you know, I remember one reading specialist saying, "Who came up with this stuff that she had helped us work on?" And it's like, yeah, we didn't try it out on kids, so it's always interesting. But yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, happy to do that.
Anything else for the good of the group? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you so much for your time.